How's it going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chats, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. There's all this stuff going on that can be very confusing if it is not, explained to you piece by piece. So, I am available. I'm here to answer all of those questions, and I'm not going to yell at you for having different political opinions than me. If you're further to the left than me or you're further to the right than me, doesn't matter. I'm just here to answer all of your questions. What's up, Bray? All right, those are a lot of days. I had no idea, but happy Friday to you as well. So yeah, any questions about politics? Just let me know in the chat, everybody. I'm here to answer all of your questions. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can be like trying to learn a new language because there's all these like three-letter agencies and there's all these just like words that we banter about, like filibuster and reconciliation and continuing resolution and stuff like that. And we often just refer to politicians and important people in politics by their last name. And so people will be like, talk about Hegseth or Patel or Noam. And if you don't know who these people are, then it can be really difficult to, be part of the conversation and know what is going on. So this is the place where you can ask all those questions, and, there's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. This is not one of those shows where I have people on and then I yell at them for having different political opinions than me, or I own people on the right, but I don't care who you voted for, I will answer your questions in good faith if they're asked in good faith. Sometimes I get a little spicy. People are spicy to me, but most of the time I just try to answer people's questions as nicely and sincerely as I possibly can. So yeah, if you're somebody on the right and you've always wanted to ask somebody on the left something, this is your opportunity to do that. And if you're like a progressive, tanky, and you want to know why somebody who's also progressive is, still proudly calls themselves a Democrat, then this is the place where you can ask that question as well. I joined the mayola race. I asked about big goals ahead of running against a Nippo baby. LOL. All right. I'm really glad that you're doing that, man, and I wish you all the luck in the world with your race. Take down that Nepo baby. James Andrews says, what I think of Trump-Elon situation. I don't know. What do you think of Trump-Elon situation? Truth Facts says, why are red southern states high welfare, poor education? I think it's a microcosm of the Republican platform of, tax cuts for the wealthy, defunding government programs, and, not supporting unions and things that make it so that people can have a good education and not live in poverty. John Bradley says, what are your thoughts on the debt ceiling? Largely the debt ceiling fight is a little dumb. Like for generations, it didn't matter who the president was, the debt ceiling just got lifted. It just got lifted. Like that was just a thing. During the Obama administration, when Republicans decided they were going to be full-on obstructionists, they then started using the debt ceiling as a political cudgel to try to get what they wanted out of Barack Obama. This started a pattern of Republicans using the debt ceiling to get concessions from the Democrats and threatening to shut down the government and shit like that. Weirdly, the debt ceiling has become an actual issue, though, because interest rates are so high and the tax cuts for the wealthy are going to increase the deficit so much that our interest payments on that debt are suddenly going to start being a real fucking issue. So where for a long time it was a scare tactic and a political football that the Republicans were using, now it actually is a serious issue that we should consider, especially when Republicans are thinking about doing another $1 trillion tax cut for the wealthy. Let's see here. Truth Facts says Trump had the highest deficit of any president in history, first time in office. Yeah, I believe that is accurate. Nathaniel George says, is it true that Dems used to be Republican and Republicans used to be Democrats? So not exactly, Nathaniel George. It's just where the issue of civil rights was concerned. During the Lyndon B. Johnson's administration, he signed a bunch of legislation that was pro-civil rights and pro-equality. And as he was signing it, he colloquially said to like his buddy whoever was next to him was like, there goes the South, because the South was more racist than the rest of America. And that is literally what happened, that the people who wanted to vote based on keeping black people, impoverished and marginalized, and brown people in general, they switched their votes to Republican, and everybody who believed in civil rights and equality switched their votes to Democrat. Let's see here. Clip in it says, how would you revolt if you led a movement? Peacefully, number one. Grassroots, everybody taking care of each other, making sure that we giving money to mutual aid, making sure that we communicate valuable information like a phone tree, just make sure that we're talking to people in person, because the internet is the Wild West and billionaires have completely weaponized it against, the idea of democratic governance. Chenji says, do you think the G side of Nietzsche's Americans is justified? No, I do not. I don't believe that any G side is justified. All right. Excellent first couple of questions, everybody. Thank you for being here. Sweet Faces, passing through, spreading the word. Jesus is king. Bless everyone. Well, God bless you. From your lips to God's ears. All right. Dawkins says, both parties spend like crazy. It's a little inaccurate thing to say, Dawkins. Like, what Democrats spend money on is programs that lift people up out of poverty and support the middle class and the working class. What Republicans spend on is tax cuts for the wealthy and defense. Alrighty. Long Live the Empire says, what do you think about the unprovoked attacks from the Illuminati on Super Earth? Excellent question. It's a little over my head. I'm not up on galactic affairs, unfortunately. Lever2K says, thoughts on Elon Musk DJT drama. So whenever something is happening that I feel like is taking away from all of the, shitty things that Republican politicians are currently doing, my red flag goes up a little bit, where I'm like, is this a distraction? Until we start seeing some actual consequences from this fight, like, Elon Musk losing government contracts, or Republicans getting primaried because of Elon Musk's money, or Elon starts donating heavily to the Democratic Party, or like Elon somehow getting the Epstein files released or some shit like that. I'm just taking the entire thing with a massive grain of salt, and it's okay to find it entertaining. Like when the two shittiest people that are in a fist fight, like it's fine to be like, yeah, fucking, do it. But I'm also just like, it's not the main political issue of the day. Like people are being renditioned to concentration camps in other nations led by dictators and warlords and shit like that. The Trump administration is trying to consolidate power. They are firing the heads of all the various branches of the military. Republicans are trying to push through a massive tax cuts for billionaires, while they are also drastically cutting Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Doge and Trump and the Republican Party have allowed a mass firing of veterans from the government that has led to our government agencies being wildly understaffed and underfunded, to the point where valuable services that people rely on in this country and abroad are just like not going to be there anymore, and that is going to hurt a lot of people. So yeah, it is funny that, as AOC said, the girlies are fighting, but I also kind of think that people should be exactly as pissed off about what Republicans are doing today as they were on Monday before this fight started. Truth Fact says, is it true Elon Musk just said Donald Trump stole the 2024 election? I have no idea. Gary says, nice opinions. Thanks. I appreciate that. John Bradley says, thoughts on the Harvey Milk Navy controversy. It's dumb. It is right-wing culture war stuff. Pete Hegseth decided to rename a fucking, aircraft carrier because it had the name of a gay rights activist on it. Like, what the fuck, man? We got nothing else better to do. We're suffering through a cost of living crisis, and you decide that is your number one priority, is renaming a fucking battleship. Great job, buddy. Yeah, it's just all culture war, right-wing culture war nonsense. All right, thank you for all of these. All of these are excellent questions so far. Dat Boy Spicy G says, is this Elon Trump drama all a psyop? It might be, Dat Boy, and so I think we should again be focused on like the real things that Republicans are currently doing. But it is, exactly as entertaining as watching Real Housewives or a Marvel movie. So like, yeah, why the fuck not, Chengi says, then why would Americans leave and give the American land back to indigenous tribes? Chengi, I completely hear your argument, but I don't believe that causing another mass suffering and potential mass casualty event is what is going to undo the mass suffering and casualty event of the genocide against the Native Americans. I think that anytime that we think about restitution for marginalized groups of people, we have to also think about like who is, relatively innocent that is going to get hurt in this process. And so, yeah, relocating 330 million Americans to try to give the land back to the Native Americans, it seems unfeasible. And it also seems like it's going to hurt a lot of people who really don't deserve it. But yeah, America's policy towards indigenous peoples could be better, and it won't be with Republicans in charge, but it 100% could be better. All right, Melinda Mary says, hi there. Do you think there was some rigging with the votes in Pennsylvania? So I know that a lot of news is coming out about this now, and I would just encourage everybody to wait for a conclusion to happen. Let's all operate under the assumption that Republicans won the election fair and square. What do? We got midterm elections coming up. We got Republicans allowing a wildly illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral president to just keep on doing fascist schnazi shit 24/7. What we need to be doing is organizing and making sure that people are going to vote for Democrats in the midterm elections because we need a check against the Trump administration. Now, is there some interesting, data-driven evidence that maybe there were some, vote tampering happening? Yeah, I've seen the data. It's interesting. It seems inconclusive to me, though. So let's all operate as though there isn't just like some magic switch that is going to be flipped in a couple of months or years or whatever that is going to undo the 2024 election. Let's do the work today as though that's not going to happen because it probably won't. Let's see here. Thank you, Savannah. Try not to get flagged on my channel. Dogs and Bad Decisions says, how about asking an indigenous person what land back means instead of spread that? I mean, all right, yeah, let me know what they say. Bro answers a question and answers for 5 hours, then answers most recent question rather than be in. I mean, sometimes I answer long and sometimes I answer short. That's what I do. Dogs and Bad Decisions says that's not what land back means. Oh, okay. Well, who answered that? Then why would Americans leave is what Changi said. So, I'm not out here trying to define what land back means. But Changi just said, why would Americans leave? So, that's what I was responding to, but man. Town of Babylon says, who'd you vote for in 24 just so I know where I just landed? Democrats up and down the ballot. Do you think that makes me more of a valid political voice or less of a valid political voice? Town of Babylon. Truth Fact says, is it true that Trump wants America to be an authoritarian society like Hungary? Yes, 100%. Easiest question I've answered all day. Tim Spahn says, 51 people signed a document that claimed Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation. All right, I don't know what your point is. I don't know if that's true or not. I also don't know what your point is. Town of Babylon says, got to figure out how to get flags with our college diplomas on them so we have a rally cry. That's pretty funny, Town of Babylon. Frank Duca says, what do you think of tariffs? Tariffs are a valuable tool so long as they are wielded specifically like a scalpel. They need to be precise. They're a precise economic instrument. What Trump is doing is not using it like a scalpel. It's not even using it with all the delicacy and subtlety of a shotgun. He's wielding it like a fucking nuclear weapon, and that is dumb. It is dumb. It is going to hurt a lot of people in this country and abroad. He started a trade war, America versus the Earth, and it is not possible to win that trade war. It also is creating a lot of chaos for businesses because they don't know what the economic climate is going to look like in a week, a month, a year, whatever, because the tariffs are on, the tariffs are off, the tariffs are different, the tariffs are on this country or that, and like they can't plan. They don't know where to build their factories. They don't know when to hire. They don't know how to invest going forward. So yeah, it's doing nothing good. All right. Two wings, one angel. Don't know what that means, Chloe. All right, thank you for being here, everybody. If you got any questions about politics, just let me know. Mr. Ray says, did Trump get Mexico to pay for the wall? No, he did not. He didn't even finish the fucking wall. Tim Spahn says, gas is down, eggs down, life is so much better. I mean, it's not better for like hundreds of people who have been shipped off to foreign concentration camps who were here legally and did no crimes. It is not better for people who are dying of measles people who are suffering from a salmonella outbreak because the FDA doesn't have the ability to screen our food for E. coli and salmonella anymore. It's not better for seniors who are having trouble getting their Social Security payments because the Doge fucking idiots decided to cripple that agency. It's not better for, hundreds of thousands of starving children dying of AIDS in other countries because Elon Musk decided to close down USAID for no fucking reason. So yeah, maybe Carlos says Trump is the best, bro. No, he's not. Sharpie says it's simple. Build in the United States. It's not simple, Sharpie. It's very difficult. Cameron Shaney says who punched Elon? Probably somebody in Trump's cabinet. Chloe says, isn't there always going to be people that don't have it good enough? Will it ever be good enough? Chloe, I think there's a difference between saying, yes, there will always be poor people, and let's make more people so that billionaires can buy even more mega yachts and mega mansions and fucking private jets. That is the Republican platform. The Democratic platform is let's tax the rich and try to lift up as many people out of poverty as possible. Let's strengthen our economy by strengthening the middle class. Marcia says, is Elon going reputation rehabilitation? That is one theory that I heard, that he is coming out strong against Trump because he wants people to like him again. I think that ship has sailed, though. So he can try if he wants, but I'm not fucking falling for it, that's for sure. Skibbity Riz says, why do you support Israel? I support the citizens of Israel. I do not support the government of Israel. It is an extremely far-right government that is attempting to ethnically cleanse the people of Palestine. Bookieman says, are you denying that building in America is the best for America in the long run? It has to be done. Yeah, but there's a lot of things that we, number one, don't have available to us here. Like, you can't build a banana in America. It is not physically possible. There are minerals and other valuable resources that we might not have here. Sometimes we need to import from other countries, not because we don't have it, but just because we don't have enough. Also, the manufacturing that has been shipped to other countries means that we are at a manufacturing technological deficit, where trying to have the kind of manufacturing system that they have in China or India or whatever would take over a decade. So yeah, you just want everybody to starve, for that 10 years that is all happening, man. Let's see here. Kamala for governor. Let her run the primary. Real Saucy says taxing the rich that profited off their labors and employed the middle class is counterproductive. Taxing the rich that profited off their labors? Whose labors? And employ the middle class, Real Saucy. I'm not really sure what you're saying. Let's see here. Good man, always stand for the people. I always stand for the people. That is excellent. Mr. Reese says, does anybody know what kafifi means? Wow, call back to fucking 2016, my man. Truth Fact says, is it true that Ronald Reagan lowered the taxes for the rich? They've never been raised since. It's a little true. Democrats have raised taxes on the rich, but not as much as Republicans have. Substantive. What's the word I'm looking for? In between Democratic administrations, Republicans lowered taxes on the rich more than Democrats were able to raise taxes on the rich in between the Republican administrations. Let's see here. Tim Spahn says, easy to talk the talk in one-way conversation. All right. Double D's hanging out, bar lunch. So we should sit in at the state capitol building and hold them accountable. I like that. Chloe says, so is any of your info proof in the pudding or info from the same people in powers with agenda? I mean, Chloe, I'm not really sure. Maybe you can be more specific of what you think I'm saying that is inaccurate or anything. But there is a lot of data to support the things that I'm saying. You just gotta, give it a Google. AW says that is a utopian socioeconomic theory that is impossible to put into practice. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, AW, but it seems like rich people propaganda to me. Cold Nose, it says 2 months ago I told you Elmo had his debt over leveraged. World about to find out. All right. Harry Mellon says, let's get real in this country. We have a horrible income disparity problem, strengthen the middle class. Completely agree with that. Tax the rich, use that money to help the poor. That guy was also doing mental backflips to say billionaires do labor. I think that is what he was saying, yeah. Truth Fact says, is it true Trump had the highest deficit of any president in history, first time in office? I think you're the one who said that, Truth Facts. So yeah, I think you know darn well that it's accurate. All right, thank you everybody for the questions so far. My name's Jared. I answer questions about politics. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care who you voted for. I will answer your questions in good faith and sincerity, regardless of where that question is coming from. So I'm not here to fight you. If you're somebody on the right and you've always wondered, why do people on the left think this way or vote this way? This is your opportunity to, ask that question. If you're a centrist Dem and you want to know what progressive Dems think, this is the place to answer that question. If you're a progressive Dem and you wonder why another progressive would proudly, still describe themselves as a Democrat, this is the place to ask that question. I don't have people on my live streams just to fight with them. I just am here to answer your questions and engage and get people more informed about politics. So yeah, I know the politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can be like trying to learn a new language. So this is what the live stream is here for, everybody. You ask your questions, and there's no ridicule, there's no roasting, there's no debating, etc. The Realist says left and right wing equals same bird. That is not true, The Realist. There are vastly different outcomes for people's lives depending on who is in charge politically. And Democrats tend to have a better track record, both federally and locally, than Republicans do. Two narratives, one system of control. It's all actors and scripts. Again, The Realist, none of that is accurate. You're spreading misinformation, so you are out of here. Have not asked one single question. Alrighty. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We got some lower numbers today at questions and stuff. Chris Parent says, what is going to be the result of the Trump administration closing the Job Corps? Actually, Chris Parent, that is one government organization that Trump closed down that I have not really done a deep dive into, like what the the knock-on consequences are going to be of that. So my apologies, but yeah, that's a little blind spot for me. Ollie says, what do you think of Trump and Elon's breakup? There's a bunch of things that you could say about it. It's, potentially a distraction. I think people should 100% be more focused on the extremely real and negative things that the Republican Party is currently doing. It is also kind of fun to watch two people that you hate, beat each other with their fists. And also, I think it's funny if it is real, if Elon Musk is really sad about this, it's like you guys are both like massive liars and con men. And it's like, wow, the guy that you thought he said that he liked you and that he was your buddy, like apparently he was lying the entire time for his own personal gain. Holy moly. Certainly couldn't see that coming. Let's see here. Out of the last 6 presidents, who had the lowest ratings? Donald Trump. Jobs course saved my life, and I'm so sad about the whole thing. Yeah, I gotta look into this, man, because this is the first I'm hearing of it. All right, everybody. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a good Friday out there. But yeah, our numbers are a little low today as far as questions are concerned. XC Money says, what are the political signs that a revolution is about to start in America? I don't know, man. Political signs that a revolution is about to start in America. All the talk about revolution at this time, it always seems very counterproductive to me because there are real things that people could be doing right now. But the people that talk about revolution, they really just seem to be waiting for when there's a march that's happening right outside of their apartment that they can join into. It's like, just do the work, guys. You don't have to wait for someone to throw a Molotov cocktail. You can go out there and talk to people and, organize and recruit people to the cause and convince people to vote better. That's the word. Let's see here. Ollie says, why is Trump banning international students as a UK international applicant? I really apologize for that, Ollie. So sorry about that. But it's a bunch of different things. It's part of an isolationist agenda that a lot of authoritarians have, where if every other country is the enemy, then it makes it really easy to scapegoat any problems that are happening here in this country. So, otherizing international students as somehow bad makes it easy for them to lodge these baseless attacks against higher learning. What they want is higher learning to be a place where the Trump truth is spread as opposed to the actual truth. So if you are not talking about how great trickle-down economics is and how Trump won the 2020 election and how he's the greatest human being to have ever lived, and how trans kids and immigrants are the only ones that are ruining this country, then you're a potential enemy to the Trump administration. And so he's going to come at you with everything that he can. I think another big part of it is that international students pay full rides for going to places like Harvard. So by limiting or completely banning international students from being able to go to school here, he is depriving all these higher institutions of a lot of tuition income. Let's see here. Marcia says, if MTG can run, we can all run. That is accurate. Let's see here. Damian Dennis says, do you think our country is currently doing financial wealth warfare? I think that for the rich have been waging a silent war against the rest of us for a very long time, and that we are only now waking up to that fact. And I think that the more people recognize that the rich are their enemy, and the Republican Party that is working with the rich to pass legislation that helps them and hurts us, the better off that we all are. So I always encourage people to recognize, like, other voters are not your enemy. The center left is not your enemy. Progressives are not your enemy. Republican voters are not your enemy. Trans kids, immigrants, people of color, poor people, they are not your enemy. Who are your enemy? It is the people that are fucking you over the hardest. Billionaire class and the Republican Party that is working with them. Boom. Arnie says colleges don't need government support. I mean, depending on which colleges you're talking about, like Harvard has a massive endowment, so yeah, they probably don't need any government assistance. But there's a difference between, cutting off government assistance and not letting international students come to stay to, study here in America, which is not only bad for those institutions, but it's just like bad for America in general. We are, because of the Trump administration's policies, we are suffering from a massive, exodus of extremely talented young people, scientists and doctors and engineers, both this generation and the next, are now not going to be here anymore. And the reason why America was so prosperous after World War II is because we got all those scientists and teachers and, incredible minds that had to flee Europe during World War II. Let's see here. Right. Truth Fact says, is it true the government made FEMA a state responsibility? That is true. Stacy says, government needs colleges research. That is also true. Mr. Ree says, will Trump make Europe great again instead of the U.S.? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like the only downside I can see to Europe is, number one, close proximity to Russia, so they got to be worried about Russia, like invading them or knock-on effects from the war. That Russia is waging against Ukraine. And also the fact that without the military assistance from America anymore, all of these countries are now going to have to start building up their own militaries, and that's not good for anybody. It just sucks that, all these other countries are going to have to not be able to spend money on things like education and fire departments and infrastructure because they're going to have to be, picking up the slack where America is letting them down. M. Coyote says, how do you feel about basically every world problem having to be a U.S. issue as well, like Palestine? M. Coyote, I take your point. The fact of the matter is, like, we are living in a global world. Like, we have technology that means that I could have virtually instantaneous conversations with somebody who lives on the other side of the globe. There are flights that are going from every nation to every other nation every minute of every day. So the problems that exist in one country don't stay in that country. So it is productive to have a globalist view of of politics and world affairs going forward. Now, where America is concerned specifically is that we, for a long time, have been the leader of the free world. Like, every other nation has looked to us to, before reacting to certain like international incidents and things like this. We've been the standard bearer for so long a time. So yeah, the world wants to know what our deal is with Palestine and Ukraine and, insert international affair here. And the fact that Trump is now moving us towards a more isolationist attitude means that the throne is now empty, and it is possible that an even worse actor than the Trump administration could potentially fill that seat, and that is really, really terrifying. So yeah, but thank you for your question. Kevin Jorge says, long live 4547. That's not a question, Kevin, so you are out of here. Ollie says, what do you think of the far-right threat of reform in the UK, Trump 2.0? So for a long time, there has been this sort of like growing interest and popularity in the far right, both in America and abroad. And, for my money, it is completely inorganic. It is the work of, bad faith actors like Putin and the billionaire class, because in far right governments, they're able to exercise more control over, society, culture, economics, etc. What rich people would love is a system that like they have in Russia, where the people are subjugated to the point where they are not safe to do any sort of like political, you know, I guess rebellion or opposition, resistance, stuff like that. And the people in the in club, the oligarchy, they all get to get rich off of the country's resources and the labor of the citizens. Like rich people here in America look at the system over there in Russia, and they're like they're slobbering over it. They're like, God damn, like there's no legal accountability for anything that I do, and I get to be 10 times richer than I already am. Like that sounds great. So yeah, it seems to me like rich people are paying for this to happen. They're spreading these narratives on social media, and they're pushing this information on various media channels and by astroturfing courses in higher education and stuff like that. Read Dark Money by Jane Mayer, and if you are a regular, time to check that off of your bingo card. Alice says, why do Americans think every other country takes advantage of us like we don't take advantage? Why do Americans think every other country takes advantage of I think you mean the U.S., right? Takes advantage of the U.S. I mean, I think that there's a portion of the population here in America that views the work that we do around the globe as a net negative for America, when it is almost universally a net positive. Oof. And it's a tool. It's a tool that authoritarians use to say that everybody who's not us sucks, and so you should help me because I will help the us. I will help the people in this group, and I will fight the others for you. Let's see here. M. Barrera says, do you think this spat is just another distraction? It's a possibility, but it's still fun to watch, so long as we have the ability to enjoy watching two shitty people beat the shit out of each other, and also recognize that the Republican Party is currently, right now, doing things that are intolerable, that are unconscionable. I can't say enough negative things about what the Republican Party is currently doing, and that we should be doing everything that we can to vote them out of existence in 2026. And I'm talking about doing the work. I'm talking about regular people like me and you, getting off the internet, talking to people in real life, because that is the only way that we can make change. Because the billionaire class, they have fully captured our information environment to the point where people don't even know what the Democratic Party stands for. They don't even know what's in this spending bill that Republicans are putting forward to just fucking transfer all of the wealth from the poor to the rich. People don't know about this stuff because the internet is not telling them. Duck from D Miss says, are you a Democrat? Yes. Legalize child labor. Ugh, all right, sketchy name. How do we non-cult conservatives and liberals unite and destroy this cancer in our government? Talking to people in real life, my man. Legalize child labor. Talking to people in real life. Forming a coalition. Making sure that we recognize, that there are all these fake straw man arguments that are being perpetrated on the internet. I travel all across the country. I meet people who are conservatives and liberals, and nobody is the way that they are on the internet. So some of these people are suffering because of an algorithm that is telling them that that's the move, and so they're being incentivized by all the extra likes that they're getting. Some of those people are just bots being controlled by billionaires to spread division in this country. So yeah, just talk to people in real life and let them know what the fucking deal is. The deal is this: the billionaire class, teamed up with the Republican Party, are fucking us all over. They're the reason why we can't have nice things. But we don't have to live like this, guys. A better future is possible. Alice says, just up to meeting with a vote about AI because not enough Republicans showed up to vote. Ooh, interesting. I don't know about that. Dunk says, Obama deported over 3 million aliens and not a peep from the left. Why now? So, Dunk, I see what you're trying to say, that the number of people deported is the thing that people are upset about, but that's not actually the case. So the reason why we on the left are upset about what Trump is doing regarding deportations is because it is illegal and unconstitutional and not based in any kind of data or facts. Biden. No, I got it right the second time. Obama deported people who were criminals or who had just arrived. Trump is deporting anybody that he fucking wants. Legal residents, people with zero criminal history. ICE has detained American citizens, veterans, Native Americans. If you are brown or you have a weird sounding last name, you are a potential target for ICE. And you don't get a trial. You do not get to provide any evidence of your innocence, and the government is not required to provide any evidence of your guilt. You are just shipped off to a fucking concentration camp in El Salvador or South Sudan or some shit. That's the reason why we're upset. All right. Legalized child labor. Forgot my username. I should change that. I mean, yeah, if you're gonna have like good faith, sincere political discussions on people's live streams, it does take a little bit out of the wind of the sails, you know. Yeah, but I get it all the time. I'll get people being like, "What do you think about the emoluments clause?" And their screen name is like "fart sucker." Randall says, "As Democrat, I know exactly what Dems represent. Go third party." Third parties really only serve to be spoiler candidates until we have ranked choice voting, and the Republican Party is hostile to ranked choice voting. They actually have a bill in the House right now trying to make ranked choice voting illegal in this country. So if you care about expanding the political climate to include other political parties, you should vote Democrat, because that's the only way that we're going to get ranked choice voting, and ranked choice voting is the only way that we can have fair elections with third parties in them. Black White Wachuan says, "Okay, I have a queue. All right, put it in there." Legalized child labor says it was done on a bet. I respect that, man. P says, "How likely is an EMP attack in the USA?" Ooh, I have no idea. Black White Wachuan says, "Do you think a white America is a strong, safe, and developed America?" I mean, black whites. I honestly don't even know what you mean by that question. It's like a white America. Like, are you talking about getting rid of everybody who's not white in this country? That is not a strength move. Part of America's strength is the fact that it is a rainbow coalition. Our diversity is our strength. So yeah, I think that's what you're asking. If that's what you're asking, I could not disagree with you more. Let's see here. P says, "Do you even know what an EMP attack is?" Yes, I do. Mika says, "Thoughts on Elon and Trump breakup to kick off Pride Month?" That's pretty funny framing, Mika. But yeah, potentially a distraction, potentially real. It is fun to watch two shitty people beat themselves up with their fists. But also, I'll be much more happy about it when I see some actual tangible results. Like if Elon gets government contracts defunded, if Elon starts funding primary candidates against Republicans, if Elon starts funding the Democratic Party, then I'll start being a little bit more hype about this fight. But in the meantime, I am just going to always be redirecting people towards actual, real things that the Republican Party is doing to hurt real Americans like you and me. Bill Suter, good to see you again. Says, "Do you know what a shack attack is?" On point, Bill Suter. You never miss. 10 out of 10. Ollie says, "Are they trying to place 10 Commandments in schools now? Church and state should be separate." Yeah, they are. They 100% are. And church and state should be separate. But, part of the authoritarian movement is in coalescing with other authoritarian groups like Christian nationalists, for example. Christian nationalists don't give a shit about freedom of religion. They just believe that everybody should be forced to be their religion. The authoritarians in Trump's cabinet who are saying like, there should be special groups of people who the law does not apply to and who do whatever they want. Christian nationalists hear that and they're like, "Oh, that sounds dope. That sounds like what we want. Like, we want to be able to force everybody to be Christians, so they team up together." G. Meyer says, "Elon lost a government contract put together by Biden after Trump canceled it. Never talk about facts, though." I don't know what you're talking about, G. Meyer. Honestly, it sounds a little sus to me, G. Meyer. Bryden says, "If the BBB sees 2% GDP growth a year, which is unlikely, would lead to greatest economy." Yeah, but every economist is saying that our economy is going in the other direction. That's actually shrinking, Bryden. Let's see here. Opinion on the Miracle Rally. I don't know what it is, don't it? Madison Sweetheart says, "Is the Administrative Procedures Act going to be dismantled? They sure destroyed NEPA." So the Trump administration is working on dismantling anything that could be a roadblock to their full-on Schnazi agenda. So the administrative state is part of like that. The fact that the EPA gets to say, that they have career people in the EPA who are making decisions that are not just whatever Trump wants. That is a threat to the Trump administration. Anybody in the military who is not just a Trump loyalist who's going to do whatever he wants. And if he sees protesters and he tells the military to shoot those protesters and they don't just say, "Yes, sir, daddy," then that's a threat to him. So yeah, that is the work of the Trump administration, is dismantling the government to try to create it as much of an oligarchy, plutocracy, kleptocracy as humanly possible. I hope that answered your question. I know it was a little vague as far as like Administrative Procedures Act is concerned. Jack Hodel says, "That is not at all what's happening." It is, Jacek. It is. What do you think I was being inaccurate about? Madison Sweetheart says, "I feel like they are antagonizing to get APA in SCOTUS." Yeah, potentially. I mean, potentially they're trying to get cases in front of this extremely sympathetic Supreme Court. Black White Wuchan says, "What is your opinion would it take to make America great again?" I mean, there's a massive list of things, policies that I personally agree with, and that mirror largely the Democratic Party's platform that I think would make America great again. Let's see here. Obij says Trump. OBJ, weren't you here yesterday and not being a Trump person? Are you being funny, my man? Let's see here. David says, "Hi, Jarrett. What's your opinion on democratic socialism?" I like democratic socialism. I worry sometimes about all the fear mongering that happens around words like socialism, because there are a lot of people in this country who don't know what that is, and there are a lot of people who have their own definitions of what things like socialism and communism is. So yeah, I worry about semantics. I worry about labels, sort of like making decisions for people. And I just, if people look at the policies, they look at what the people who call themselves democratic socialists, what they stand for, they would probably recognize that those people have, similar platform beliefs, I would say. G. Meyer says, "Do you have Google where you live?" I do. What are you trying to get me to Google? Tell me the name of the government contract put together by Biden that Trump canceled. G. Meyer, tell me. I'll Google it. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Thoughts on Zoran? Don't know what that is. Trumpers think Dems is all communism. Agree. Lowercase J says, what is all in the big beautiful bill? So short version, it is taking money from the poor and giving it to the rich. It's giving it to the rich in the form of tax cuts, and it is taking it from the poor by defunding things like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. There's also other things in there, provisions that technically should not be in a spending bill, like giving Trump more power over the courts and making it so that AI cannot be regulated at the state level. OBJ says, "If you had to guess, who do you think will be the Democratic nominee for president?" I'm not doing that ever. I always punt on that question. I don't care. Let the primary happen. Let's all focus on the midterms. 2026 is coming up right around the corner. We should all be doing the work to organize right now, to get out the vote for Democrats right now. Talking to people in real life to make sure that they're not, slopping on some right-wing propaganda that's either convincing them to vote for Republicans or not vote at all. That's the work that we got to do right now. And we got to be recruiting other people to do this work as well. We got to do that right now. Zoran is the NYC mayoral candidate. Oh, I love him. I think he's great. He should 100% win. If I still lived in New York, I would be on the fucking street hyping for that dude 24/7, man. Let's see here. Vladimir Lenin said the goal of socialism is communism. I don't know if you really want to take Lenin's word on that, my man. He did a lot of not great things. So it's not like just because somebody whose name we remember from history said something doesn't mean that that thing is accurate. G Hippie says, "When were we great? America has had moments in specific areas when we were great, but I don't know if America was ever like 100% great, All right, scrolling down to the bottom. All right, Brody P says Vance 28. I don't think he has got a shot. He's got all the charisma of a fucking piece of drywall. Also, Brody, ask a question or I'm going to boot you out of here. I do not allow people just to spam the comments with right-wing propaganda. Jessica Hodel says we should have more local government. Okay, yeah. All right. All right, let's see here. We're at 45 minutes about. We got a nice number of people here. Brody says, I didn't spam. I mean, you just wrote Vance 28. So, that's not a question. And I didn't spam is also not a question. So, OBJ. Is that your name, OBJ? I can't really read what you got a little thing there. Free speech, brother. All right, well, you're out of here. There's no free speech on my live stream, everybody. Yeah, is that OBJ? Is that how you say your name, man? Because I can't really read it. It's too small. What are your politics, man? I'm curious about that. Chris Parent said, would Vance be better than Trump if Trump were to step down? Yes, 100%. So Trump is a unique figure in American politics where he has this kind of like fame and rabid fan base that, you can ascribe to various things, decades of painting himself as the richest, most successful person in the world, The Apprentice, assistance from Russia, shit like that. The charisma of a performer, if you will. Nobody else in the Republican Party has that ability, and so getting rid of Trump would solve a lot of problems that we have in this country regarding, American politics. So JD Vance, he would be bad. He would be very, very bad, but he would not be as bad as Trump because I believe that we fracture the MAGA fan base without Trump. and that is beneficial for America. The Republican Party would be able to get away with a lot less without Trump, generally. Jay Money says, so I recently switched because of you. I just want to say thank you for providing truth. Thank you, Jay Money. I remember you from a little while ago. And I'm really glad that you're here, man. If you ever got any other questions, feel free to pop in, my man. Bubba205 says, do you feel like Trump could actually debate Anita Dickin and win? I don't think that Trump wins debates. I think that he lies and he says a bunch of vague shit, and I don't understand why people don't see through that. When somebody is in a debate talking like a kid giving a book report on a book he didn't read, like that should be like a red flag. That should be enough to not vote for that person. It's me. If you know, you know. So yeah, I don't think he wins a debate against anybody. Turner boy Matt says, you think there's a shot where Musk can buy enough Republicans to impeach Trump? Ooh, that is a really good question. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a tough one, man. That is good. I think that the value of Trump's base and the value of the other, financial connections that Trump has and the power of the presidency that he's currently is in control of, I think that outweighs any amount of money that Elon Musk can use, because Elon Musk is still at the mercy of the American government. Whereas, like Trump's connection to people like Putin and Peter Thiel, he still has more resources available to him than Elon Musk does. But does that mean that Elon Musk can't lose a couple of MAGA Republicans their primaries? Potentially, I don't know. So yeah, I think it's a really close game in that situation. But I would probably bet on Trump in that situation. Marcia, I do not know who Thomas Fugate is, so sorry about that. Scott Smart says, do tariffs work? They do if they are wielded specifically and carefully like a scalpel. But that is not what Trump is doing. Trump started a trade war between America versus the earth. And America cannot win against a trade war against every other country on the planet. Jordan Allen says, can you explain the impact of X in politics? If you log out the app, it is less of a tool. It's really interesting, Jordan Allen, because not that many people are on X, but it does have an outsized influence in American politics because of a lot of influential people are still on X. And there is a very slow migration happening, way too slow for my money, in my opinion, to other platforms like Blue Sky and like Threads, but it is happening. And because of that, because there are all these influential people, saying their things on X, then, mainstream media tends to repeat those things, and other more popular social media channels tend to repeat those things as well. So yeah, it does have an outsized influence for what it actually is. I worry less about specifically what's going on X than I worry about just the social media environment in general. Like, information tends to skew right-leaning on YouTube, and we don't know who's controlling a lot of these social media algorithms and what their agenda is, Additionally, if you just have a lot of money, it is really easy to hijack social media feeds and, present or push whatever algorithm narratives you want to push. I believe that is largely responsible for why people have misconceptions about the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, for example. And a big reason why Democrats, didn't do well enough in the 2024 election. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Dan Blackroyd, good to see you again. OBJ says, if Kamala was in office, do you think America would be better right now? I do. What are your politics? And is your name OBJ? I can't read it. It's DBJ. Maybe it is. What are your politics? Tell me what your politics are. I like blue slides, like Twitter, but everyone's so friendly, so nothing like Twitter. Agree. There's way fewer Nazis. Crazy Monsoon says, who gets JD in the divorce? Boy, I think he goes into foster care. It's that rare situation where neither parent wants the kid. Not showing my pretty face says, I am sure you addressed this, but can you assure the breakup isn't a political show to manipulate us? I cannot. But here's what I can say. Treat it like entertainment and then do the work regardless. There are Republicans doing really shitty things right now. Trump is doing really shitty things right now. And we need to stop that by putting pressure on our elected representatives, boycotting, striking, protesting, and organizing people to vote for Democrats in the midterm elections. So do that work, regardless of if this fight is real or not. And then, once you've done that, then you can turn it on like it's fucking Real Housewives and watch two really shitty people beat themselves up with their fists. That's always pretty fun. Let's see here. I have an invisible name and I am a Republican. Okay. What's your most important issue to you? What should I call you? Should I call you DBJ, my man? I see like your little square box icon thingy there, and I find that interesting. Jacek Hodel says, have you ever considered debating someone like Charlie Kirk? So, short answer, no, I don't believe in debates. They're dumb. But I would relish the opportunity to tell those people that they are pieces of shit to their face. There was one of those Jubilee 25 people versus 1 people against Ben Shapiro, and a bunch of people just went up there to yell at Ben Shapiro. And I was like, that's great. I'd fucking pay for that. I'd do that shit. So yeah, there's no debating Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro because they lie and they make shit up, and then they have these dumb bullshit arguments that are meant to give political cover for their agenda, as opposed to actually, learning something from each other and trying to find common ground and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't like debates. They're dumb. Let's see here. User says, who will win the NYC mayoral election? Whoever you decide to work for. Like if you want someone to win, do the work of getting them elected. I like the progressive guy. What's his name? Zoran or something. All right, DBJ. I will call you DBJ from now on. What is your top issue, DBJ? Kinger says, just getting mad at others doesn't really help, though. I mean, it can be pretty cathartic. I have on my Discord a big list of things that people can do to actually affect positive change in this country. So yeah, you do your self-care, you watch your Marvel movies, you watch Elon and Trump, fight each other in between S and each other's D's, and then you do the work. And then you do the work after that. All right, OBJ says, my biggest concern was the border and our military, and the right strengthened both of those. So OBJ, I don't know if people in the military would agree with you on that. The Trump administration fired the heads of all the branches of the military and the head of the Joint Chiefs. And I do not believe that anybody in the military thinks that that was a good idea that strengthened the military. Additionally, everybody that works at the Pentagon is saying that Pete Hegseth is a fucking nightmare, and he's not actually doing the job. He's probably drunk half the time, but everybody there is saying he's way more concerned about these like fucking like schizophrenic ideas he has about conspirators and leakers and stuff like that. He's so paranoid that he's not actually doing the job of protecting this country. Like, have you heard these stories, or does it sound like I'm just like making shit up? Does this sound like fiction to you, OBJ? Jason Codell says, are there Republicans that you would consider to be somewhat truthful? I think baseline, you have to be a Republican that is speaking out against Trump. And so if you've ever done that, then I view you as the top of the list of Republicans. I mean, as far as I can tell, the only policy that every Republican shares is trickle-down economics, tax cuts for the rich, cutting regulations that make sure that our air is clean and our food is safe to eat. And so you're kind of a piece of shit there regardless. But if you're a Mitt Romney or a Liz Cheney or a Jeff Flake or a Tim Miller or anybody who has come out forcefully against Trump and his administration, then you're at least okay in my book. All right. DBJ says, as soon as Trump was in office, we had record-breaking military employment. Well, you didn't answer my question about the things that I said, OBJ. Have you heard the things about Trump firing all those various people at the tops of the military and Pete Hegseth being a nightmare at the Pentagon? Like, are you hearing any of these stories, my man? Ollie says, did you see RDK drink raw milk? Yes, I did see that, and I saw that a couple of them got sick, too. Let's see here. J6 says, I'm guessing I'm fine with being okay. All right, so you're a Republican that is not down with Donald Trump. I'm glad to hear that, J6. So OBJ, you said yes. So you think that even though all that shit is happening, that the Pete Hegseth shit and firing all the top military leaders, like, you think that that's better than what we had before? You think that's strengthening the military, my man? Brody Bailey, I'm curious if you're against what Doge has done. Very much, Brody, very, very much. And if you want me to go into more specifics about that, please let me know. We have plenty of room on the live stream right now. Questions are a little bit more sparse at the moment. We're going to be wrapping up in about 10-ish minutes. So this is the time to ask all those questions and to really get involved here, guys, because we can really engage with each other now that the comments have slowed down a little bit. All right. Yeah, ask me about the Pentagon. Ask me about Doge. Scott Smart said, did Trump Slaughter die about his weight? Yeah, any human being with eyeballs can can see that he lied about his weight. All right. Kinger says Rand Paul and Massey. I actually don't know who Massey is, but I don't like Rand Paul because he's a libertarian, and libertarianism is astroturfed billionaire propaganda. Alrighty. Let's see here. Dan Blackboard says Charlie Kirk is the only one who wins in terms of perception when people debate him. That is accurate, Dan Blackboard. All right. Ollie says, "What do you think to Trump in the Epstein files?" So, I have heard that we already know all the information about Epstein. Like, there's no like secret thing that's hidden that has not been published about Epstein. So I'm skeptical about that claim. Elon Musk is a liar. Donald Trump is a liar. They're both going to make shit up about each other as they do this stupid fucking fight that is very fun to watch between the two of them. Now, I could be wrong about that. Like, maybe the FBI does have something that they're not showing us. But, it seems like, it seems like fodder for conspiracy theorists to, get you to hate somebody by saying that there is evidence that somebody that they want you to vote against is in the Epstein files or some shit. Let's see here. J6 says, are the Democrats you disagree with? Yeah, I'm much more of a progressive. And so, people on the centrist, gerontocracy wing like Pelosi and Schumer and people like that, I tend to disagree with them on policy. Bill Suter says, are you looking forward to the new teen drama Penn Ave? Yeah, it's a fun show. I don't know how productive it is, but it is fun. Brody Bailey says, I'm interested in another opinion on it. I consider myself independent, leaning more Republican. Yeah, so let's talk about Doge, my man. I'm happy to get into it. Javi says, odds on BBB passing the Senate. It's becoming less likely, and I honestly think that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in the House who voted for it, who are now coming out against it, saying they didn't read it, kind of signals to me that they're all trying to distance themselves from it, which is interesting. But I also don't think that we should take our foot off the gas in stopping that bill, because it would be monstrous, OBJ says, I don't like Trump as a person, but I like his policies. God damn, I really want to get into this more with you, OBJ, so I'm really hoping that you'll come back to the live stream time and again. Let's really engage, my man. All right, so Brody Bailey, my issue with Doge is that, number one, they were lying about all the things that they found. They have been, debunked time and time again. Like, they made shit up, they reinterpreted data, they inflated numbers, and reporting is coming out right now that they actually spent more money in doing Doge than they saved. Also, what they are doing is illegal and unconstitutional. All of these things need to be mandated or voted on through Congress. They are not a real government agency. They have no actual authority. They are making cuts that they are not legally allowed to do. So all of that would be immaterial if the things that they were doing were good. But that's not what's happening. What they're doing is shutting down agencies that are helping people so that the rich can benefit. Elon Musk was shutting down agencies that were investigating him and mass firing military veterans, because that's who's mainly employed by the government, and just like kneecapping agencies that they don't like. So USAID, which was beneficial for both Americans and people in other countries, the NLRB, welfare, the Social Security Office, like, they're just kneecapping the government. These things that we paid for, they are taking them away from us, and we are getting nothing in return. Additionally, they're stealing all of our data. And now that Elon Musk is out of the government and he hates Trump, and Trump is thinking about deporting him, and Russia is saying, come to us, now he's got all of our data and he's going to be giving it to adversarial nations. Doesn't seem like the move to me. So yeah, let me know what you think about all those things that I just said, my man. Alrighty. JSec Hodel says, when is your next live stream? Excellent question, JSec. I normally stream from Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That is, subject to change. Sometimes I wiggle the times here a little bit. But now that I am in town and off the road, I'm a touring stand-up comedian, and I'm off the road right now, so my schedule is going to be pretty consistent going forward, hopefully. So yeah, check me out. Weekdays from 11:30 a.m.-ish to around 12:15 a.m.-ish. That is how we do here. Brody Bailey says, so for the most part, I agree. I believe it was done the wrong way, but I agree with the principle. So yeah, there are things in government that run inefficiently. That is true. But it is also true that there are parts of the government that are designed to address that inefficiency that were dismantled, defunded, fired by Trump and Doge. So yeah, this is this group of people that are telling you they're doing something that they're not doing. And so, yeah, you can say that you want them to do the thing that they said they were going to do, but they're not. They're not doing it, you know. Alrighty. Let's see here. Quackmaster says, why are we vilifying being Republican, Democrat, Independent? So, Quackmaster, I don't vilify any voter. But if you are a Republican politician, if you are a conservative judge, if you are a Republican talking head like Ben Shapiro, Sean Hannity, Charlie Kirk, all those fucking ding dongs, then I believe that those people are bad people. I believe that they are lying. I believe that they are full of shit. I believe that they are con artists who are working with the billionaire class to dismantle our government so that the rich can have everything and have no legal consequences, and laws don't fucking apply to them, and turn us all into a fucking 99% of us will become like wage slave serfs in this new techno aristocracy where they get to be the kings and queens and we get to fucking till the fields for them or die in the street of starvation. And so I absolutely believe that it is worth it to vilify the Republican Party. But Republican voters, Democratic voters, independent voters, y'all are just part of the 99% with me. And so I got no beef with you whatsoever. I want to try to do the work of persuading you to come to my side. Like, let's all do the work together to get better politicians in office. Let's all do the work to make the government work for us as opposed to just for the billionaire class. That's the move, I think. All right, Quackmaster, but thank you for your question. Bill Suter says, where will you be doing your next stand-up? I'm actually off the road for the rest of the year, Bill. I just finished 3 huge tours that were really long and all over the country and exhausting. And so now I'm done. But, come to the West Coast. Hit me up when you get here, and we can get a coffee or something. Evil Doris says, what do you think about our tax money in Israel? I'm against it. The Netanyahu government has been found guilty of doing war crimes, and we already have a law in the books that says that we are not allowed to assist governments that are guilty of doing war crimes. J6 says, how about Charlie Kirk College is a scam, and if you don't have time for this, that's okay. How about Charlie Kirk's college is a scam? Oh, I don't know about is that like a video of his or something? But yeah, I mean, there's issues with higher education, of course. But I'm sure that what his position is that it indoctrinates people into being, left-leaning ideologues, and that's bullshit. Oh, it's a book. Yeah, he's full of shit. It's the Rocketeer. Good to see you again. Says, wait, you're doing local shows on the West Coast right now? I don't have anything booked, but if I'm going to do any shows, it'll be on the West Coast. KCC says, is your name Irish? No, it is not. Kinger says, so do you think rich people in general are the problem because mostly all of Congress gets rich? Yes, Kinger, yes, rich people are the problem, and yes, people in Congress are rich. But that does not mean that the people in government are all the rich. I'm talking about like the billionaires. Billionaires, of which there are very few in government, have so much more money and power than people that have just like $50 million. It is impossible to fathom. So it's important that we delineate between somebody who's like, an actor, a successful actor who has a couple of $1 million is not the billionaire class. The billionaire class is like Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump and Peter Thiel and, all those fucking pieces of shit. Noah Holiday says, congressional term limits, I'm for them. Quinn Eel says, did you get a chance to read the article I sent you in Discord? I did, and I think it's interesting, but I think that we need to operate under the assumption that nothing is going to happen. If the trials happen and the data comes out and the audits happen and it turns out that votes were changed, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. But I just don't want Americans to be sitting on their hands thinking that the judiciary is going to save them because they're going to prove that the election was stolen, then everything is going to be reversed and we'll be able to have a normal government going forward. Brody Bailey says, personally, I feel like the party system is the biggest political issue in America. What's your opinion? I don't love the two-party system, but I do think that it gets blamed for a lot of problems that are actually the fault of the Republican Party. So let's say that we want to do away with the two-party system. How do we do that? How do we introduce new political parties without having candidates just be spoiler candidates the way that like Jill Stein was a spoiler candidate in 2016 and 2024? What you need is ranked choice voting so that people can vote for their favorite candidate without sacrificing voting against their least favorite candidates. And Republicans will never let ranked choice voting be a thing. They actually have a House resolution to make ranked choice voting illegal in America. So if you want to get rid of the two-party system, you have to vote for the Democratic Party because they're the only ones who are going to allow things like ranked choice voting and opening up, the what do you call it? Making it so that there is not just the will of the billionaire class in politics. Democrats, I think Rashida Tlaib put forward a constitutional amendment to undo Citizens United. That would take a lot of the influence of money out of politics, but Republicans are against that. So I think it's important to recognize, like, what is step one of getting more political party or political influences into American society? And it has to be voting for Democrats as opposed to, just trying to build up the infrastructure of third parties while the Republican Party is weaponizing third parties against the Democratic Party. Ready. J6 says, what's your opinion on abortion? My opinion on abortion is that I'm pro-choice. And if there are people out there who are anti-abortion and want there to be fewer abortions, then I believe the Democratic Party has the solution to that problem, which is do the things that actually cut down on the number of abortions. Making abortion illegal does not actually cut down on the number of abortions. It just makes pregnancy and abortion more dangerous for women. But what actually decreases the number of abortions is family planning, access to contraceptives, raising the minimum wage. People don't have babies because they can't afford them, And so giving people more money and benefits and strengthening the middle class and the economy, growing the economy from the bottom up as opposed to trickle down, that would, make it so that there would be fewer abortions. Paid family leave, maternity leave, paternity leave, all of that stuff reduces the number of abortions more than just making it illegal. And it has the added benefit of strengthening our society and making it so that poor people aren't struggling as much. All that Republicans do is increase the likelihood that somebody gets accidentally pregnant and then force that person to have that baby. So that to me is not, actually doing the work of stopping abortion. Is it the case then in MIC whoever wins the Democratic primary is basically guaranteed to win? Generally speaking, yes, Quinn Hill. Generally speaking. Jasik says, makes sense, but how do they increase the likelihood? So by defunding places where poor people get health care like Planned Parenthood. Without places like that, people don't have access to contraceptives, canceling sex education. Republicans are hostile towards all education, including sex education. Where kids who are poor would be able to go and get that information is public schools, and they are making it so that public schools are not a good place for kids to be. They are, what do you call it? Sorry, we're at about an hour 10, and I'm getting kind of tired. But you get my drift, man. I've already given you a couple of examples. Quinn Hill, thank you for being here, my man. Who was your pick for NYC? The progressive. I forget his name. I think his name was like Zoran or something, and he's dope as hell. All right, Tyro, good to see you. But we are wrapping things up here on the live stream. Alrighty. So yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the comments and the gifts and the likes and the shares. If you want to support me financially, you can. I got a Patreon. I think I got 4 people on there. They're dope as hell. I got a store you can buy things from, but you don't gotta. I know that we're all suffering through a cost of living crisis. I just appreciate you being here, especially if you're somebody who doesn't agree with me politically and is down with engaging in good faith, like a bunch of y'all have been doing. I think Quinn, you're different than me. Brody, you're different than me. Who else was on here? J6, you're different than me. I'm down with all of this, man, and I hope that you are finding this space to be a good place to engage with people. So yeah, if you got any questions that I was not able to get to on the live stream, hit me up. My DMs are open, and I got a Discord you can join. That's where I got a lot of really good resources for people to do the political activism that's going to get us out of this fucking mess. And also, you can email me through my website. My website's a great resource for finding my Patreon and my store and my email and my schedule for live streaming and stand-up. And just like lastly, my heartfelt plea for everybody to do the work, be part of the solution. We can stop this if we all work together. We don't have to live like this. We can have a society where we don't have to worry about, having, what's the best thing I can fucking possibly afford to not just die on the fucking streets, where we don't have to worry that one medical emergency is going to send us into bankruptcy for the rest of our fucking life. Where we don't have to worry about being a wage slave and actually get nothing out of it. Just get poorer and poorer and poorer as time goes on. We don't have to live like this. We don't have to live with fucking pollution. You know, like we can have green, safe, clean energy. Like we can have all these things. We don't have to have a billionaire class that has fucking mega yachts and mega mansions and mega fucking private jets that are, you know, fucking made with gold and they're eating fucking caviar and lobster 3 meals a day. There's no value to that. We don't have to live in that world where the only way to survive is to be one of the people in the top 0.1%. So yeah, guys, let's join me in the fight, man. Join me in the fight. We got to do the work and we got to recruit other people to do the work. And I hope that you will join me in doing it. Alrighty. I will see you guys next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have an excellent weekend. Do your self-care, do the work, enjoy the fights, and I will see you guys on Monday. Take care, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.